until I felt like I was made of wood and cleaning solution instead of flesh and bone. My hand moved in slow circles over the massive mahogany dining table, its surface so glossy it reflected the chandelier above like a dark lake. I had been told not to touch this table for my first 2 months here. It belonged to the formal dining hall, a place reserved for visitors powerful enough to warrant attention and dangerous enough to require performance. But Mrs. Petrovich, who normally cleaned this room, had gone home sick, and I had been reassigned. No warning, no explanation, just a quick nod from the head housekeeper, as though that single gesture should be enough to calm the strange dread building inside me. The dining hall was too quiet, the kind of quiet that made your heartbeat feel loud, the kind that made you aware of the cameras in every corner, of the unseen eyes behind them, of the fact that this house never truly slept. I kept my gaze on the table. That seemed safest. 30 feet of polished wood. I sometimes wondered how many secrets had been whispered across its surface, how many deals had been made, how many threats implied without needing to be spoken. It was ridiculous. Wood couldn't hold memory. But as I wiped away fingerprints left by ghosts of people I'd never meet, I felt it watching me back. My hand paused. Just once. Just enough to breathe. And that was when I heard him. Or rather, I didn't hear him. I felt him. The shift in the air. The faint awareness of another presence. A ripple through the silence like the moment just before thunder. You missed a spot. The voice slid into the room like smoke. Low, controlled, and unmistakable. Victor Castellano. I didn't turn. You never turned before you were told to. I'm sorry, Mr. Castellano. My voice sounded small even to me. I'll fix it. I resumed polishing, though my hand trembled enough that the cloth dragged unevenly. He moved closer. I didn't need to see him to know. The air changed when he entered a room, became heavier, more aware of itself. Like gravity adjusted. Stop. The word was quiet, but it halted me as surely as a hand around my wrist. Look at me when I speak to you, Olivia. My heart stuttered. He knew my name. Slowly, carefully, I turned. He stood only a few feet away, hands in his pockets, dark hair immaculate, shirt sleeves rolled just enough to reveal strong forearms marked with faint scars that were impossible not to notice. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, deep, dark, consuming, held mine like they wanted to see through me. I forced myself not to flinch. First time cleaning this room? He asked. Not a question, really. Just confirmation of something he already knew. Yes, sir. He stepped closer. Just one measured pace. The kind of step meant to test what you would do. Fight, freeze, flee. I didn't move at all. Your stroke is uneven, he murmured, taking the cloth gently from my hand. His fingers brushed mine, warm against my cold skin. You polish wood in long passes, not circles. Circles leave residue. He demonstrated, slow and deliberate, then handed the cloth back. Try. I did. My movement steadier now because his gaze was an anchor and a storm at the same time. Better. A single word. But from him, it felt like a gold medal. His eyes lowered to my hands, raw, red, stiff from scrubbing chemicals day after day. His jaw tightened, not with disgust, but something harder to read. You work too hard, he said. I didn't know how to respond, so I said nothing. Then, quietly, softly, as though he were naming something sacred, he repeated my name. Olivia. Not the way bosses address staff. More like something he planned to remember. Something he had already remembered. Heat gathered beneath my skin. A warning, a question, a spark. His gaze held mine a moment longer. Too long. Long enough for the room to change shape around us. Then, just as quickly, he stepped away. Continue. He left without another word. But the silence he left behind was no longer empty. It was charged, sparking, waiting. And for the first time since I'd arrived at this estate, I understood. I had not gone unnoticed. Not by him. Not at all. The rain outside was steady that day, like a quiet warning tapping against the tall windows of the dining hall. I was polishing the last corner of the table, trying not to think about how my hands still trembled, where Victor had stood near me earlier. I should have known the quiet would not last. The door opened. I thought it was maybe Angelo or another guard just passing through, but it wasn't Marinette. I had seen him around the mansion before. Loud laughter, expensive suits, too much cologne, and a smile that never reached his eyes, the kind of man who felt entitled to anything he looked at. Day he was looking at me, well, he said, slowly walking deeper into the room like a man entering a stage that already belonged to him. Victor has been hiding the pretty ones. I lowered my eyes and stepped back like I always did. Please excuse me, I said softly. I need to finish my task. He moved to stand directly in front of me, blocking my path too close. His breath heavy with alcohol. His eyes heavy with something worse. What is your name, Bella? I already hated the way he said it. Olivia, I answered, hoping being polite might keep things calm. Livia, he repeated, tasting it like he had the right to his hand. Rose slowly, as if petting an animal. He touched my hair. I flinched. I stepped away. But the table was behind me. Don't be shy. He said, his fingers wrapped around my arm, hard. Hard enough that pain bloomed instantly under my skinlet. Go of me, I whispered. I didn't want to shout. Shouting. Got you hurt with men like this? I knew. That lesson very well, feisty, he said, laughing. I like that. The room felt small, the air too thin, my heartbeat too loud. I could hear myself breathing too quickly, too sharply. He was pulling me closer. My cleaning rag slipped from my hand and fell to the floor. The sound echoed like something breaking inside me, and then the air in the room changed. Not from sound, not from movement, from presence. I didn't hear him enter. He did not slam the door. He did not shout. Victor was just suddenly there, like the room had summoned him. Maroney released me instantly like a puppet cut from strings. Victor didn't look at him. Not yet. He looked at me, only me. My arm where Maroney had grabbed me. The red marks already forming. Who touched you? Victor's voice was quiet. Too quiet. Quiet like the moment right before lightning hits. No one. I tried the panic in my voice. Obvious, I'm fine, I'm really... Who touched you? Each word slow, sharp, a blade sliding across air. Maroney cleared his throat. Victor. I was only. Victor's head turned. At last, only now acknowledging him, his eyes were not angry. Anger is human. His eyes were cold, calculated, dead. Calm, Angelo. Angelo appeared from somewhere I had not noticed, as if shadows delivered him. Escort Mr. Maroney out. He is no longer welcome here. Maroney sputtered, you're ending a business arrangement over a maid. Victor stepped closer to me, his hand gently closing around my wrist to turn it and look at the bruised skin. His touch was soft, careful, the opposite of everything I expected from a man like him, the opposite of everything Maroney had been. She's not just a maid, Victor said, and the city would soon learn that was true. Whether I was ready or not, my life had just changed forever. I did not sleep that night. Not really. The house was too quiet, too watchful. It felt like the walls themselves whispered about what had happened in the dining hall, about the man who had been dragged out under Victor's silent command, about the way Victor had touched my wrist. Not roughly, but like something fragile. He intended to protect by morning. The whispers had grown legs and eyes and intentions. The kitchen staff looked at me differently. Not cruel, not kind, just different. Like I had crossed a line I never meant to cross. Like I had been placed on the wrong side of a closed door. I wiped down counters, scrubbed floors, and kept my head down. but the hush of voices always followed me. She was with him in the dining hall. He spoke her name. He never speaks their names. He touched her. He defended her. He ended a business partnership because of her known. If that felt real to me, I was just trying to breathe. I was refilling soap in the hallway outside the library when I heard the footsteps measured unhurried. Familiar no. Will Livia come with me? His voice I did not hesitate, even though my heart leapt into my throat. I followed him through a side corridor. I had never walked before, his presence so steady. It made the ground feel different beneath my feet. He opened a door and ushered me into a small room. Not an office, not a lounge. A room meant for private conversation. Soundproofed, windowless, intentional, he said. I sat. Victor did not sit. He stood across from me, hands behind his back, posture. Perfect eyes unreadable. Word travels quickly in this house, he said. You know this. I nodded. Yes. They think something happened yesterday that has not happened. I swallowed. I know. Victor stepped closer. Just enough that I could feel the warmth of him, but not enough to make me move away. I need you to understand. Something he said, his voice was lower now. Not cold, not threatening, weighty. Careful when I told Angelo to remove Marinette. It was not because you are weak. It was because someone crossed a line in my house. A line no one crosses, not with me, not with mine. The word mine echoed in the quiet room. I did not know where to place it on my skin, in my chest, in the air. My throat tightened. I am not yours, I said softly, my voice steady, even though everything inside me was shaking. Victor nodded, slow, deliberate. You are not yet. The not yet struck me like a chord. I did not know I was capable of hearing. You are free, he continued. If you want to leave this house, say it. I will make it possible. No threats, no pressure, no debt. My breath left me, because it was the one thing no man had ever offered me before a choice. But then he added, if you stay, know that I will not allow anyone inside these walls or outside to harm you again. I looked up, really looked into eyes that had seen violence, that had survived it, that had chosen something different. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not love, not desire, not yet, but trust, the first fragile seed of it growing in the place where fear had lived. I whispered, I will stay, and Victor did. Not smile. Victor did not touch me. He simply said, good, but the air between us was no longer the same. The invitation came in an envelope so thick, it looked carved, not folded gold. Seal heavy enough to weigh down the entire tray where it was placed. Mrs. Petrovich set it on the kitchen counter while the others pretended not to stare. Everyone knew what it meant, before anyone said a word. Victor Castellano did not send invitations, he summoned, and whoever he summoned appeared. I dried my hands slowly, the towel trembling slightly between my fingers. You should open it, Mrs. Petrovich said gently, returning to chopping onions, like the air wasn't holding its breath. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flicked up toward me again and again. I opened the envelope. Inside was a dress code. Nothing more. Black, elegant. No jewelry. Underneath one single instruction, dinner 80, folded the paper and tucked it under my arm, like it did not shake me to my core. The entire house watched me walk to the East Wing. The hallways were lined with portraits of powerful faces, ancestors who built crime and call it legacy men, whose silence killed more people than weapons ever did. When I reached the door of his private quarters, I hesitated just once, long enough to wonder who I was becoming in this place. Angelo opened the door before I could knock. He nodded once. No smile. No words. Just a gesture through a corridor I had never seen before. The dining room was smaller than I expected. No grand chandeliers. No large table meant to intimidate, just a quiet space. Soft lamplight and Victor standing near the window with his jacket off and sleeves rolled up. He looked less like a king, more like a man. But the power did not leave him. It never left him. You came. He said simple words, but they held something that made the room warmer. I sat where he gestured, my hands folding tightly in my lap to keep them from shaking. He poured wine, then paused, waited, looked at me. "Do not drink," I said softly. Good, he poured water into my glass instead, as if it had been the plan all along. The food was already prepared, but neither of us touched it. The silence between us was not empty. It was full of everything unspoken. He finally spoke. "Someone is looking for you," he said. Not a threat, a fact. A shadow in his tone, my chest tightened. I knew exactly who he meant. I could feel the memory of fingers, words, fear. I stared at the table, at my reflection, faintly visible in the polished surface I left because of him. Said, my voice was barely above a whisper. Victor leaned forward. Not to intimidate me, but to meet me at the distance where my fear lived. "Tell me." And I did not. Everything. Not the worst, but enough for him to understand the loneliness, the running, the night spent praying. The sky would swallow me whole rather than let him find us. When I finished, my eyes were burning, but no tears fell. I had forgotten how to cry. Long ago. Victor exhaled slowly, a sound like someone accepting a vow. "You are not running anymore," he said. I looked up, but he was not watching me. He was watching the doorway, like he already sensed something approaching. Someone had crossed the outer perimeter of the estate. Angelo appeared silent. Urgent Victor stood, his voice colder, then winter-tight security from this moment. No movement without confirmation. She is under my protection. The word protection echoed inside me, and with it, a truth settled heavy, certain, unbreakable. My past had found me, but this time I was not alone. The night pressed against the windows like a living thing, thick and heavy, and waiting. The house did not sleep. Not anymore. Every hallway felt alert. Every shadow felt awake. Every guard moved with a hand near a weapon. Someone was searching for me. Someone who once owned my breath. My silence. My fear. I sat on the edge of the guest room bed, hands in my lap. The memory of his voice curled like smoke around my thoughts, and I hated that my body still remembered how to be afraid of him. The door opened quietly. Angelo stepped inside. He did not speak at first. He simply set a steaming mug of tea on the bedside table. "Chamomile, gentle, kind Victor asked that you drink this." Angelo said he did not ask if I was all right because he already knew I wasn't. I wrapped both hands around the cup, the warmth grounding me. "Thank you," I managed to say. Angelo nodded once, then paused in the doorway. His voice was softer now. When Victor chooses to protect someone, there is nothing in this world that can get past him. Not man, not history, not fear. Then he left and the door closed with the same quiet care it had opened, but I could not drink the tea. My stomach was too full of dread. I remembered the last night before I ran the slammed door. The grip that left bruises, like fingerprints forever stamped into my skin. The sound of my child crying from the next room. The moment I realized if I stayed, I would die, and he would grow up learning that this was what love looked like. I stood and opened the curtains. The estate grounds were lit softly, path lights tracing long curves through the gardens. Guards stationed at invisible points, and near the fountain, standing as if the night itself made room for him, was Victory. Did not think my feet moved before fear could catch me. I stepped outside. The air was cold and sharp wind tugging at my hair, and Victor turned the moment the door opened, as if he already knew I was coming. He waited, still anchored, like nothing could move him unless he allowed it. I walked, until I stood in front of him, close enough to see the way the moonlight caught in his eyes. "The person looking for me," I said, my voice thin but steady. "He won't stop." Victor did not ask who, because he already knew. He had known since the moment he saw the shape of the fear in my eyes. He had known since the first time he said my name. "Tell me what you need," he said, not what he wanted, not what he expected. What I needed. I tried to speak, but the words tangled my throat tight. My breath uneven. He stepped, closer, not touching me, only letting his presence steady mine. You survived him once, he said. You are not the weak one in this story. You are the one who got away. My breath broke just slightly, but it broke. My eyes lifted to his. He was not saving me. He was reminding me that I had already saved myself. I whispered, I am tired of being afraid. Victor nodded once. Then his voice lowered. Final absolute. Then we end it. Those words did not sound like a threat. They sounded like a promise. And the night held, its breath around us, because everything had just changed again. Dawn came slow and heavy, like the sky was unsure if morning should arrive at all. I woke before the sun. The tea from the night before still untouched on the bedside table. I had not slept. But the exhaustion felt distant, like something that no longer belonged to my body. A soft knock came on the door. Not rushed, not loud, measured, careful. Come in. My voice was barely sound. Angelo opened the door, but Victor stepped through Angelo, remained outside like a silent guard between me and the rest of the world. Victor wore no jacket, no armor of power, just a black shirt sleeves rolled up, hands, steady eyes, even steadier. We need to talk, he said, not in warning, but in understanding. I stood slowly. My legs felt strange, like they were remembering how to hold me. Victor reached into his pocket and placed a folded document on the dresser. I recognized it instantly. A legal record. My record. The trail of a woman who disappeared one night with her child and never returned. You changed your name, he said. Quiet, not accusing. Yes, you did what you had to do, he said. I exhaled something in me. Loosened just enough to breathe again. Your former partner filed a missing persons claim 4 months after you left. Victor continued. He has resources, money connections, but he does not have you and he never will. My hands shook and I clasped them together to hide it. Victor looked at me, not as a criminal or a possession, but as someone who had survived fire. I have a solution, he said. But it requires your consent. The one word I never thought I would hear from a man like him. I waited. If you remain here as staff, he will find a way to demand access, to question you, to challenge your presence. He will use the law, your fear, and the fact that no one knows who you are. I knew all of this. I had lived with the shadow of it. Every day. Victor stepped closer. I will not allow him to touch you, or approach you, or unsettle your life. Again, my voice cracked. How he took a slow breath, his eyes on mine, unblinking, solid. You will no longer be listed as an employee of this household from this day forward. You will be introduced publicly and legally as someone under my protection, as someone who is not obligated to answer to him, as someone he will be unable to approach without consequences. My heart pounded. Protection meant exposure. Exposure meant the world seeing me. What are you saying? I whispered. Victor's voice lowered. Steady, unchangeable, you will be presented as my fiancé. The words settled between us like thunder that refused to fade. I felt heat rise in my chest. Not fear, but something sharper, more alive. I stared at him, searching, testing, needing to know if he meant ownership or shelter. His eyes did not waver. This is not a command. He said this is a door, and you choose whether to walk through it. My breath trembled, and for the first time the future did not feel like something waiting to take from me. It felt like something waiting to be taken back. The dress they gave me did not feel like clothing. It felt like a question, a test, a door. I had to decide whether to walk through black, simple, elegant, not loud, not glittering, but unmistakable. It did not try to impress, it declared without words that I belonged in any room it entered. My hands shook as I slipped it on, because belonging was something I had never known. Angelo waited outside the dressing room. He did not look surprised. He did not look curious. He simply nodded once like this. Had already been decided by the universe, long before either of us understood why the ride to the gala was silent, not cold, not tense, just filled with the kind of silence that holds something being born. Victor sat beside me in the car, his posture relaxed, but the air around him felt like a shield, an invisible fortress that only expanded when it included me. Lights from the city flickered against the windows, reflections of a world that did not know me, a world about to say my name, even if I could not say it myself when we arrived. The flash of cameras began instantly. Crowds, voices, shouts, names, yelled like weapons thrown. I felt my breath catch my body, preparing to shrink to disappear. But then Victor's hand slid to the small of my back, not pressing, not steering, just grounding, a silent reminder that I was not alone. "Walk with me," he said, and I did. The room inside glittered with chandeliers and ambition. People dressed in silk and diamonds, people who controlled cities with whispers. And every single one of them turned when Victor walked through the door. Eyes followed us, mouths open to ask questions, to speculate, to judge. But no one stepped forward. No one dared. We moved through the room with calm steps, and I felt something under my skin, a quiet strength, the strength of being protected, the strength of choosing to stay. But the air changed, sharpened, as though the night itself tensed. I knew he was in the room before I saw him. Some scars never stop speaking. He stood near the bar, my past wearing tailored clothing, confidence dripping from him like oil, the man I once ran from, the reason I feared my own shadow. His smile spread slow when his eyes found me, a smile that said he believed the world still belonged to him. "Olivia," he said as he approached. My name felt like poison in his mouth. "You finally stopped running." My heart lurched, my hands trembled, but I did not step back. Victor stepped forward instead, placing himself between us, not blocking, me shielding without trapping, a position of absolute power and absolute restraint. She did not stop running. Victor said she simply reached a place where you cannot follow. My former partner laughed, a sound that scraped bone. "Do you think she is yours now?" Victor did not look at him. He looked at me. Only me. Not mine. He said, his voice quiet, but protected. The room. Stilled eyes, wide ears straining. But then Victor's voice changed, deepened, the kind of tone that reshapes the ground. "Someone stands on, but she is under my name, my defense, my future." The crowd inhaled like one single body. My former partner took one step back, but only one, enough to show fear, not enough to admit defeat. "This is not over," he said. Victor did not blink. "It is," he answered. His words did not echo. They landed heavy, final, and in that moment, with the whole city watching in silence, I realized something. This was not a performance, not a game, not a display. Victor had not claimed me. He had chosen me, and the night changed. Because of it, the house was not quiet anymore. It breathed differently. It listened differently. Every hallway felt like it held its own heartbeat. Every window felt like it was watching the outside. Waiting guards rotated in pairs. Security feeds flickered. Across monitors, the world had shifted in a single night, because he saw me, because he spoke for me, because he said my name in front of those who believed they could own anything they touched. I tried to sleep, but sleep would not come. Fear had moved. Back in, not the fear of being hurt, but the fear of being found. I walked the corridor barefoot, the polished floors cold under my feet, the lights dimmed to soft amber to mimic dusk. Instead of night, the mansion was vast, but tonight it felt small, crowded by something unseen. When I reached the end of the north hallway, I heard it. Not footsteps, not voices, a click metal. Intentional, like someone testing a window lock. My skin prickled. I moved slowly, carefully breathing through my nose so air would not sound too loud. The sound came again outside the window. Someone was there, close, too close. My body froze, my past pressed its hand against my spine, whispering, "Run." But I could not move. And then a hand touched my shoulder. I inhaled sharply. My heart jumped to my throat, but the hand was steady, warm, anchored. Victor, he had been behind me, close enough to see the moment fear claimed me, but not close enough to startle me. He knew how to approach, how to be present without overwhelming. His voice was quiet, low, a steady pulse in the darkness, where I pointed the window, barely able to form the word outside. "Someone is." Before I finished, Victor was already moving, not rushing, not panicking. Silent, calculated, like a predator who knew the ground better than the hunter. Trespassing on Atangelo appeared from the shadows as if called by thought. Alone, Victor murmured instructions low enough that I could not hear, but the meaning was clear. Contain, detain, no mistakes. Angelo nodded once, like this was not unexpected, like they had been preparing. Victor turned back to me, his face no longer the calm mask he wore in public. This face was sharper, warmer, dangerous in a way that did not frighten me at all. He cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing once, not to claim. But, to steady, he is escalating. Victor said, his eyes holding mine. He wants you afraid. He wants you to run again. My breath shook just enough to show I understood. I will not allow that. Victor continued. Not with walls, not with guards, with me. The words did, not echo. They took root. A sound cracked outside in the garden. Fast steps. A shout, a struggle. I flinched. Victor's hand stayed exactly where it was, not tightening, not dropping. Just staying, then silence returned. Not peace, just an aftersound. Angelo came, back inside. His voice firm. Calm, we have him. Victor nodded. No questions, no praise, no hesitation, get names, connections, why now, who else he is working with. Angelo left to carry out the command. Victor looked back at me, really looked, seeing the fear. The shaking under my ribs, the battle happening behind my eyes. You do not have to be brave right now, he said. My chest tightened. Finally, I felt tears. They burned hot and heavy. Victor stepped closer. Not touching, just being, and in his stillness, there was safety. Not the brittle kind. Not the kind that breaks when someone raises their voice. But safety that stands, that chooses you, that does not leave, I whispered. He won't stop. Victor answered. Neither will I. Morning came without light. The sky outside, the windows was gray, like smoke. Like the world was holding its breath. The house did not move. The way houses move after a night of chaos. It moved with purpose, with awareness, with preparation. The intruder had been caught locked in one of the lower rooms that only Victor and Angelo had keys to. No one said what would happen next. No one needed to. I sat in the small library, hands wrapped around a cup of warm tea that I could not drink. The books around me towered like silent witnesses, and in the quiet, I could feel the truth settling over me. This was not a temporary shelter anymore, and I was not a forgotten shadow, living in the corners of someone else's life. This was becoming something real. Footsteps approached, measured and steady. There was never any question who it was. Victor entered the room and closed the door behind him. Not softly, not loudly. Just final, he crossed the room and sat across from me. Not beside me, not distant, a space where we could see each other clearly. He spoke first. The intruder was hired not by your former partner, but by his brother. The words sank slow, like heavy stones dropped into deep water. My heartbeat stuttered. I did not know he had help. I whispered. He has many, Victor replied, but he does not have loyalty. Only fear, and fear cracks. His gaze was steady, not gentle, not harsh. Steady like a hand on a storming ship. I nodded even though the room felt like it was tilting. Victor watched me carefully. He always watched me like that, not to see. If I obeyed but to see if I could stand, I set the cup down. My hands shook, not with fear, with something else, the slow and terrible return of myself. I looked at him. Really looked. You think we can win? I said. Victor leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, his voice calm and unwavering. I do not think I know the words should have sounded arrogant. They did not. They sounded like gravity. You have survived worse than him. Victor continued. You survived his silence, his control, his cruelty. You carried a child away from hell and built a life out of ashes that is strength. Men like him will never understand. My breath broke. I had never heard my life spoken like that. Not as tragedy, but as proof that I lived. Victor stood and walked toward me slowly, giving me time to step back if I needed to. I did not move. He reached out his hand, touching my face with the kind of tenderness that could shatter stone. I will not take from you. He said, I will not own you. I will not cage you. His thumb brushed my cheek, a touch so light it felt like remembering warmth. But I will stand with you. I will fight with you. And if you choose me, I will build a life with you that no one will ever take from you again. The words were not a confession. They were a vow. My throat tightened, my voice a thin thread. I am tired of being afraid alone. Victor's gaze did not waver. Then you will not be. He leaned forward and our foreheads touched. No rush. No hunger, just a quiet, breaking becoming. The house was silent around us, but something inside me was roaring awake. Not fear, not survival. Something stronger than both trust and the beginning of love. The sky over the city was heavy, like it knew what was coming. The air tasted like electricity, the kind that arrives before storms or change or truth. The ballroom was filled long before we arrived. The richest men, the most dangerous men, the ones who controlled streets and laws and empires. They all came because Victor called. And when Victor called, the city listened. Angelo drove us in silence. My hands rested in my lap, steady. For the first time since I left my old life, I was not fearless, but I was no longer alone. The car door opened and flashes exploded. Voices rose, shouted questions. Names, rumors, accusations. Victor stepped out first. Every camera followed him. Every breath. Waited on his movement. Then he reached back for me. His hand. Open, not commanding, inviting. I placed my hand in his. And the world watched the world. Learned, we walked through the crowd, through the doors, into the light of the ballroom. And there, standing near the center, was him. My past. My shadow. My fear, the man who believed I belonged to him. His eyes narrowed when he saw me at Victor's side. Not frightened. Not shocked. Furious, like power had slipped from his hand, and he could not understand why he stepped forward, ready to speak, ready to claim, ready to take. But Victor moved first. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He simply spoke, and the room stopped breathing. You searched for her. You chased her. You hunted her. His tone was calm like winter. She chose to leave you, my former partner, laughed a broken sound. You think this is choice. She is scared, she is hiding behind you. Victor shook his head once. No, she is standing beside me, and that was true. My feet did not move. My voice did not break. Then Victor turned, not to the man, but to the room, to the city. This is Olivia. He said, not my maid, not my property, not a rumor, not a secret. The crowd leaned forward. Every heart pulled into the gravity of the moment. Every camera focused. She is the woman I choose, the woman I protect, the woman who stands with me by her decision, not mine. My breath trembled. My chest almost broke. Victor looked back at the man who once owned my fear. Touch her approach. Her speak her name without her permission. And you will not have a city left. To hide in the room, erupted not with noise, but with silence so deep it was louder than sound. My former partner stepped back twice, and in that moment, I saw the truth. He was small. He had always been small. I had simply been too hurt to see. The world did not end. It shifted. Victor turned to me, and in the quiet center of the storm, he spoke only to me. You choose what happens next. I breathed fully, completely for the first time in years. I reached for his hand, not because I needed saving, but because I wanted a future. And Victor, for the first time, smiled. We left the ballroom together, the city still watching the whispers, already spreading the truth, already rewriting itself. And as we crossed the threshold into the night air, I understood. I had not been claimed. I had not been kept. I had not been taken. I had been seen. And I had chosen our story did not end there. Our story began there in the moment. I finally realized I was not running anymore.